Hello, fellow space monkeys. This is the mildly morose man, otherwise known as Dan, or Dan the Man, whichever you fancy. I am here to bring you another thought-provoking video on the video game Beyond Good and Evil 2. In the fourth live stream, we got our first glimpse at some down-on-the-ground gameplay. Combat and augments are going to be the topic for discussion in this video. Immediately, when I saw the player characters entering this room to engage in combat, I thought of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The strongest point of Breath of the Wild was its gameplay, and specifically its combat. In Breath of the Wild, after you complete the introductory tutorial type zone, you are given all of the tools available to you on your Sheikah slate. There are things like freezing water, stopping an object in motion, grabbing metal objects with a magnet, and creating a couple of different types of bombs. What this means in Breath of the Wild is that combat is a unique sandbox every single time. Whatever abilities that you would like to use and leverage to your advantage are always at your disposal. As you obtained other things in-game like weapons and horses, your strategy could become more and more attuned to your playstyle. Again, every time you encountered a group of enemies, you were able to decide what skills you would use and what approach in general you would take in order to take down that group of enemies. A demo given at an E3 before the game's launch gave players a better idea as to how this would influence gameplay. There are a group of enemies on the plateau, the original starting area, that provided options for the player to consider. Would you go around the long way in order to set off explosive barrels to get the upper hand? Or would you go in swords a-blazing in order to take out the enemies without destroying the tasty meal those monsters were cooking that you could benefit from? As I saw the gameplay footage of Beyond Good and Evil 2 shown in the fourth livestream, I thought of this type of scenario from Breath of the Wild. You see, the two players playing the demo take two different paths to engage with the enemies. If you were playing by yourself, this would give you an obvious choice in the way you engaged in combat. But here, with two players, you are able to engage in a coordinated assault on these evil doctor-type villains that have been found doing some sort of illegal research on a large group of hybrids. This hints at some deeper strategies that players will be able to consider as they explore System 3. With augments, the gameplay gets even deeper. There are different special abilities that can be added to both your physical and ballistic weapons. In the livestream, the use of guns, swords, and jetpacks will be the common tool set among all characters and players. From their discussion, it sounds like all of these things and our characters themselves have the ability to become augmented. Augments are items in the game that will give players special abilities. They showed only a few of these abilities in the livestream. So we see that the gun can freeze singular enemies, and this can cause a chain effect, freezing other nearby enemies. And this does build up kinetic energy so that you can send enemies flying when they break free from the freeze effect. We also see an area effect that slows down time within a given area. I think we see how the same augment can be used on different items because it looks like the Shawnee-looking character uses this same slow down time area effect on the sword smash here earlier in the footage. The last augment that I have barely spotted is an explosive-looking effect that the Nox-looking character uses in Friendly Fire. It sounds like we will be seeing more about augments soon, but this type of combat and gameplay gets me really excited about the game. You will be able to mix and match augments to your desired playstyle, and we are going to be able to experiment with these abilities to see which ones work best together. And I forgot one more thing. We will get augments for our ships as well. The one example that they give in the livestream is an augment that will allow players to heal each other. And since I am a fan of MMORPGs, I love hearing this type of possibility for role-based gameplay. I cannot wait to hear what kind of defensive and offensive augments that we're going to be able to get our hands on when the game launches. This type of combat is going to make each encounter with enemies fresh every time. That's exactly what Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild does so well. So tell me down in the comments below, what about augments are you most looking forward to? Do you think the developers at Ubisoft took conscious inspiration from Breath of the Wild? Well, be sure to like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date on all things Beyond Good and Evil 2, as well as to hear more thought-provoking content from this mildly morose man.